Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome to Waking Up Right with Ivory. I'm your host, Ivory Hunter, and today I'm super excited, and I'm sure you guys are going to be too. I am talking to, I know they're super humble, but I'm going to call them a musical family royalty. These guys are amazing, man. They're amazing in music business. They're more important than that, man. They're awesome individuals. First person I met was Tricky. You know what I mean? Tricky came out here to LA, and he signed He signed my singer group. We went out there to Atlanta, and it was just an amazing experience. All you guys were just, I'm still to this day, still grateful for that opportunity just to learn and to be around an amazing family, man. So anyway, man, thank you guys for coming on the show. And ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome my people, Mark Stewart, Tricky Stewart, Lainey Stewart, and pretty soon you're going to meet the incredible mother, Marianne Stewart. But what's up, fellas? How y'all doing, man?
Oh, Mom's on here today? I didn't know Mom was on this. Okay.
He's a secret special guest.
Oh, yes, he might be a secret special guest. And I want to go in and spill the beans early on. But how you guys doing? Individually, let me start off really around the corner. How you doing, Tricky, man?
I'm doing great, man. Just trying to stay focused and working on a lot of good music. So things are good.
That's what's up, man. How about you, Lainey?
I'm great, man. Just ready to get out. Ready to get outside and start to get back to some normalcy, but making great music and really excited about what's happening for the rest of this year.
That's what's up. What about you, Mark? How you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing wonderful, man. Just like these guys said, just staying in the grind and trying to just take things to another level, just manage this business, manage this company to some success and to more success.
That's what's up, man. Just to give Lainey and Tricky a little background, I know, Mark, you and I kind of stay in touch frequently, but, I started this show, guys. It's like basically just to kind of put out some positivity, some love, give people some tools, some tips, especially during COVID. You know what I mean? There's so much negativity happening in the world, and I just want to share some positivity and some inspiration. So I started this show. Like I pivoted during COVID. I was like, you know what? I need to create my own opportunities. So that's what I decided to do and just start this show, man. So it's been amazing. And I have like a normal format that I do where I ask a certain amount of questions, but this is kind of like a special interview. So I want to, you guys have so many credits, like, multiple Grammys, like you worked with everybody from Beyonce, combined collectively, Beyonce, Rihanna, Justin Timberlake, Mariah Carey, so many people. I can just go on and on, but I want to kind of give people who are unfamiliar, I know they're familiar with your music, but unfamiliar with your story and with the family, like kind of give me a background of like how you guys got started in the music business. And I know it started with you, Lainey, because I know you are the oldest one, the oldest brother. So how did you guys get started in the music business?
We basically got started just kind of being a musical family. Everybody in our family, starting with our mothers and her sisters, were professional background session singers in Chicago. And through their professional careers, we got a lot of observation and we got a chance to be around some really legendary people like Curtis Mayfield and the Ohio Players. But I think an extension to that, some really great session musicians and producers in Chicago, and exposed us just visually what it was. And so over the years, it was kind of like, with us having talent, it kind of started to snowball in that direction that we would move in the direction of music. Obviously when you say that, people freak out, we're going to, I'm gonna do music. And they're like, oh, nah, like, don't do that, But for us, what people didn't know behind the scenes for us was how much momentum was going on, that we were actually witnessing their greatness at that time. My Aunt Kitty, and my mom and her sister Vivian, rest in peace. And then so we were really in a concentrated situation to kind of know, it didn't mean that you were going to make it for sure, but it was definitely like we had a ability to kind of see what the vision was and what it could be.
Yeah. And you guys did it at still doing it at such a high level. Like you guys remind me of the basketball family, the Holidays. They got 3 people in the NBA. You guys got 3 people successful. You guys are like the Holidays of the music business. And Mark, I know you're I know like Lainey's you're musical as well, but I know Laney plays instruments, Tricky, they do the producing. You're kind of the businessman, and you've always been that way. When I first met you, had that level head. Like, what is your role overall in Red Zone and your family business? What is your role overall?
For the most part, like I just found my niche early on, because I like Lainey said, I was around all this stuff, but I wasn't as gifted, or I should say, I wasn't gifted with that musical gene, or at least the ability to be able to output it. I could hear it, I could kind of process music the way that they did, but I didn't have the ability to execute it with the ease that they did. But I wanted to stay in and around it. I wanted to be close. So early in my career, before it was a career, I was just kind of, a do boy. I was 18, 19 years old, run to get coffee, do all the things that now we call internships or whatever. But through that, I had a lot of good people that Lainey was working with at the time that would give me information about what was going on. And that was sort of the foundational pieces to my career in business, being able to manage and handle the affairs of this family on a business end. And then obviously I've had a lot of mentors, people who have sort of coached me and given me the insight into how to do this, and attorneys who answered a lot of ridiculous questions when I was a 20-year-old manager, or thinking I was managing. I wasn't managing. I was just a guy wearing a suit at the time, but I wasn't. I grew into the shoes over the years and learned how to get it done.
Yeah, and I know. I think Tricky and Laney are both Are you guys both Capricorns?
We're all Capricorns.
We're all three.
Oh, what? Man,
me and Laney's birthday is the same day.
Wow,
and Tricky's birthday is January 4th.
He was actually supposed to be on our birthday.
Really?
He came early. Yeah, he came early. Yeah.
He was excited to get out here. Another basketball metaphor, you guys appreciate this. Now I'm looking at so Laney's like the old school, Laney's like Jordan, and Mark comes in like Phil Jackson, and here comes Tricky like Kobe Bryant. Like, I know you might not like the Kobe metaphor because you're also Chicago guys, but Kobe is another Jordan, you know what I mean? But he found his own path, and that kind of leads me to where I'm going with you, Tricky. You know what I mean? Like Laney, he started off early on working with like Low Silas and all those people like that. But then you came on and you started early on with Laney. Like, what was your experience? Like, did you always know early on that you wanted to do music?
No, not exactly. Like,
because I know you play sports. I know you play sports too.
Yeah, I just knew I wanted to be like my brother. So like, it was more like whatever they were doing. So the music, they started doing the music. I liked music, a lot, like listening to it. And I liked it definitely from like a church perspective, but it wasn't anything that I thought like, oh, I could make a life out of or anything like that. But ultimately, just my perspective was kind of the same perspective. I came in through Laney, who came in through Lul. So I came in through Lul, and it's kind of like, in this business, I think there's like a misconception sometimes that people think, that everybody all at once, the whole industry is going to mess with you, but you truthfully may only get one or two or maybe three relationships that really mean something in music. And Lul Silas was like that olive branch, for getting into the music from that side, from the record side, because he was the one that I think really gave Laney his first shot, but he was also the person that gave me my first shot too. So like, even coming up through the camp and even kind of having somebody, acknowledge you and at some point and go, hey, you know what? I'd like to let you do your own records, or, I like what you do enough to do it, with you and what it is that you're doing. So shouts out to Lil, always. Rest in peace.
Yeah. I mean, Mark and I were having a conversation the other day, just in terms of kind of chronicling, there's people who come into your life and has been, intricate little parts that nobody knows that, was the one that sent this music to that person and, did this and did that. And so, it was definitely something, I think, that it was, when you start at this point in our careers, looking back on it and starting to kind of, look at it from, this end of the spectrum, it was something that was definitely kind of in a divine order, because it was just so many things that just came together that one of those things could have not happened, and potentially none of this would be here. You know, we wouldn't be having this conversation. And so, you know, I think Lil being like literally Jimmy and Terry. I mean, there was a ton of people that kind of in the beginning that just kind of went in and said, hey, okay, y'all got something. But I think that what we were doing at the time that really made it work was that we were pretending that we were already doing it. Like we were in Chicago actually functioning as a company. You know, we were functioning as infrastructure business wise, even though we were in the jingle business a little bit. We had, you know, everything that we still do to this day was in effect at that moment. The infrastructure was in effect. So we were, as Mark likes to call them, fire drills. We were in a fire drill mode, and just kind of doing it on a day-to-day basis.
Mark, talk about that. Talk about fire drill mode, Mark. Give people some, what do you mean about, I can kind of get it, but talk about what do you mean by fire drill mode.
Well, it's funny because it's like, yeah, we were going through, because it's easy to look at this stuff in retrospect and go, oh yeah, that's what we were doing. But at the time, I think we were just, like, some people might have thought we were delusional, but it's really what
we were delusional.
it's really what people call
in a good way.
It's what people call manifestation now. Like it was just like when we were going through it, I tell people this all the time, and it's the honest to God truth. I never thought for a moment that we weren't gonna make it. Like I talked about what we were doing like we were already jamming Lewis or LA and Babyface. And not from a delusional point of view. I just really believed in it. I believed in what we were doing, and I believed that we were ultimately going to find success. And so, like, when we started going through the drills, using basketball analogies, you know this because we all played ball. The coach is the first thing. What do they tell you? You play how you practice. You practice how you play. So we used to practice like it was like NBA championship week. You know, we practiced like we were in the finals. So even when there was nothing on the line, before there was ever an artist that was signed that we were ever working with, Lainey would make records, cut them, put vocals on them, mix them, master them, like we were doing it for a label. Before there was any label, we knew who we were or we knew who they were. This is in the late 80s. So everything was like an exercise that got us there. And then just to quickly fast forward, when Tricky's career launched in 2007 to a whole nother level, we were doing the same things in the years leading up to. We were just going through exercises of like, okay, what is it going to be like when this thing really explodes? So it is, a lot of it is like you're really, really legitimately manifesting what you want to happen. I think
it really did look crazy to people because it was the way we were functioning in it at the time was as a matter of fact for us. I'm sure looking from the outside in, people were like, yeah. I mean, and you would hear that. I mean, you would hear the rumblings of, you know, hey, he talking about writing songs. They be talking about coming over writing songs. And that was the like, come to the studio writing with us. People didn't show up. Like they thought we were kind of crazy. So we were getting a real big education about the overall aspect of the business, you know, from day one by just pretending that we were doing it already. And then all these things just started showing up. So I guess, you call it manifestation for sure.
Yeah, I believe in that 100%. Mark knows I speak about that a lot. And you guys definitely, you know, when you believe something before it happens and it's total faith and you actually see it, you know, that, and it happens, it's manifestation, it's manifesting. And a lot of people utilize that tool with, it's just belief, unwavering belief.
Yes.
Unwavering belief.
And the knowing, I call it the knowing, you know, you just know, you know, you don't, belief always kind of leaves a little gap of maybe, but I think you have to function in the knowing that this is the outcome, function in the outcome.
I want to piggyback off that because that's something powerful you said, because like when I grew up religious, I had faith, but also had a little confusion. You know what I mean? There was a little doubt, little confusion, but I had faith. I believed in something, but you know, because of the different religions, I had a little bit of doubt. You know what I mean? Not about whether there's a creator, but just how everything operates. But then something personally happened in my life through experiences. It went from faith to knowing. So I understand the difference between that faith and know, because when you have faith and you know, there's a different way you move. It's just a different way.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
Yeah. And Mark, you mentioned something interesting, and that's perspective and relative. You said when Tricky took off in 2007, that's when, you mentioned something about him kind of like his career taking off in 2007. Now, keep in mind, like, you guys are still in the business. I know Laney started in 1992, but when I met you guys, to me, you guys were already on top to me. You guys like you guys were dope as heck, but that was in 2000. But obviously the ball didn't stop moving.
I gotta correct you. The professionally, this all started for us in 1989.
Mm-hmm.
Is when we originally formed the very first our very first company, and Laney put me on. So that's when I first started working in the business full time. Laney got a publishing deal with Famous Music, which is now a Sony company, and he started making records. And we met Lowell and his right hand A&R Madeline Randolph in the late 80s. And so we started making records from Chicago, actually. And we were in Chicago making records from 89, and they would fly artists in and we would fly to LA and stuff like that. And then we finally in 92 made the decision to move to LA. So 92 sort of marks when we got to LA. And I guess for a lot of people, that's considered the official beginning of when you step into Hollywood. But the reality of it is we had started making records prior to that in Chicago and bringing artists into Chicago.
Okay. And when did you guys start Red Zone? And how did that come about?
Red Zone, we formed the Red Zone in 1995. Tricky and I and another executive by the name of Tab were sitting around.
I remember Tab.
Yeah, you remember Tab. Tab is still out here doing his thing. And we all put our heads together and started talking about like what's next. Because there's been many iterations of what we've done. We've done things together. We've done things separately. As much as we've been a family in business, we've also gone our ways and done our own things and learned our own lessons. But we always sort of end up back in each other's lives creatively and business-wise. But we formed Red Zone in 1995.
Got it. And that's when, and I met you guys in 99, 2000, and Tricky signed us, and Tricky was our main producer, but it was awesome working with you guys. And Tricky is a beast, all I remember with Tricky, he get that little net, Tricky, that little net going, he's feeling it. Tricky, when you worked with everybody, man, when do you know that a song is a smash? Like I read something like when you said when Rihanna did that, Ella, whatever she did, I think I read something, but you knew your careers were about to change right then when she did that, when you did recording Umbrella. But ordinarily, when do you know you have a smash, man, as a producer?
Well, it's so hard to call it a smash now, because I think back at that time, that was probably the last of the tail end where you could kind of identify a song, just a song by itself and think that you had done something special. But I think it's like, ultimately, it's that when you hear that marriage between the artist's voice and the best song that you've ever written in your life, like that's truly when you have a smash, not like hits, but that song that you just know is the best song that you've ever written. And for me, that song was Umbrella. And when I remember hearing Rihanna singing that, because that was the question, the big question in a record like that is, it was one of the first times that people had heard Dream's voice from a demo perspective or from the original vocal that was there. So there wasn't like a lot of voices that it was just that you thought could really do the part the way that he did. So obviously that time Akon was really popping, so there was a lot of talk of maybe Akon could do this record, but for whatever reason he never even really heard the record before it came out. But I think when I heard that Ella going down, and she was able to not only just like take what Dream did that was so great, but it just sounded like those words like were written for her. And that, from that standpoint, it was just like one of the most magical sessions I ever had.
One of the things that has really been a feather kind of in our cap in terms of the ability, the things that we do, is being able to identify those moments. I think Mark plays a huge part in that, because generally if something that Tricky does or something that I do, he's probably, if there's no one else in the studio with us, other than those people, he'll be the first person outside of that to hear what it is. And we can immediately know if it's something that is special versus, okay, this is a good song, this is a dope record. Records have different levels. Some of them are just art, some of them are smashes, but there's something that when the artist gets on it and it just goes to another level and you just go, oh boy, something just happened. It's like the cake just came together, So it's literally about being able to identify. Obviously Tricky and identify early, but then Mark comes in and validates whether he'll be like, nah, I don't know if that's it. It's like, it's a definitely kind of a triangle sort of scenario.
Yeah. And Tricky, you mentioned like, that was like the last time you were able to kind of like deal with music in that way. How did you pivot when the music industry pivoted? How did you guys pivot? Mark or Tricky, anybody can chime in.
Which time?
Yeah, which time are we talking about?
Well, let's talk about like when you mentioned doing like when you were recording Rihanna, like that, when you were able to identify what was going to be a smash during that time, then the music business changed a little bit. So did you guys?
I think for me, like usually when I do my best work, a lot of times is when the frustration kicks in about there might be some success that's going on in music that I don't really understand, or just you're trying to figure something out, and out of frustration, you kind of stumble onto the new and what's on to the next, because there's some angst about like how you're going to make it to the next level. You start thinking about when was the last time you had a hit, or the last time, when was the last time you had a record that was like significant? And then, I think it kind of forces your hand to start thinking about what's truly important, which for me is always making my living from music. Like I don't want to ever have to do, I never wanted to have to do anything else other than music. So at certain points, whether what I wanted to do and what needed to be done could also be two different things. And ultimately, that's led me to some of my really good moments of just trying to being mad and being frustrated to the point where innovation becomes part of that. You feel like you're looking on the outside looking in a little bit again. And 2007 was definitely one of those points for me after coming off the Britney Spears high and all that kind of stuff, and the early B2K stuff that was doing well. But then the Britney Spears stuff was like kind of like a mid charting single that we wanted to be a smash, and we wanted that moment in 2007. That we wanted that 2007 moment in 2003, and we wasn't able to quite deliver that one right there.
Okay. It really the pivot. Well, the pivoting right now for us in the business wise is the challenge that I think everybody's kind of going through, trying to figure out what's next in the music business. Everything that we knew, prior to is all changed and shifted. The business model has shifted, production has shifted, the creative process has shifted, everything. So it's all a massive pivot right now. I think for us as a company and for us creatively as well. Mark, Mark can really speak on that a lot more.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Yeah, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a similar challenge to what we faced. Like Tricky said, I think as much as it is about what's going on outside the industry, because there's always, we've been in this with, when CDs came in and the MP3, there's a lot of different changes that have happened in the business. But what happens is you have to go back to the drawing board as a company and reimagine your company and refocus how you're going to attack it. That really becomes the issue at that point. So as much as it is the creative inspiration, like Tricky said, what maybe drives him is anger and angst and frustration. There's some strategy to it as well about trying to be in business with the right people. For example, I'll give you one of the best examples at a time when we had a nice run of hits. And this is kind of when we were around with you, we had a run of hits with Soleil and JT Money and Maya with KCDX. We did Who Dat. We did 456 in our deal with DreamWorks, which you guys were a part of our deal with DreamWorks. And there was a group of writers that were sort of like the young energy that we were tapping into at that time. And then when that moment sort of fell off, there was a kid, Tricky referenced him earlier by the name of The Dream, Terry is the Dream Nash, who Laney actually initially found and signed to his venture. And this kid was sort of around the building, earning his stripes, working his way up, because it wasn't like he just walked in and was The Dream. He walked in and was like, who's that guy? And why does he keep coming in here making noise in the studio? And somebody get him, it was a whole different vibe at first. And then he figured out his thing. And then he became, probably for a stretch, and in some ways still is one of the most, he just won a Grammy the other day for the Megan Thee Stallion record with Beyonce, but like one of the most important writers in the industry. And we found ourselves in close proximity with him and business with him. And I think that's a big part of being able to pivot, is to find those people who are in their moment and partner with them and become creative partners with them. We did that with Esther Dean, who had a run of hits. We did that with Dream, who had a run of hits. We did that with Frank Ocean, who was a young, creative energy person who's influenced the entire industry. So a lot of it is about who you associate with and our ability to be able to identify those people before the world does, and then bring them into the fold, cultivate them, nurture them, and then they become part of why you get to continue to go on. So as much as it's all like we sit here, like the brain trust of it all, there's just a lot of people who have who sewed into this situation, but a lot of it is our ability to identify and find that talent.
Yeah. Absolutely. Laney, I thought you were going to say something. Laney, what I know Tricky said the most exciting part, maybe not the most exciting, but the highlight of his career was the Rihanna record. What was a highlight for your career? One of the top highlights for your career, personally?
I get asked that question. For me, it's difficult. I think for me, I will always say when I got in, because I think the realization of the dream was really kind of a big thing. Like when it happened, particularly in my case, it was like kind of a tidal wave in a little bit. Like we had some really like people who we had been reading about flying to Chicago to sit down. Mark and I was just, trying to figure it out. We didn't know what was going on. We would have, people that were massive people in the music business. I mean, we talk about Lil, but there were just moments where Benny Medina, the reason why I ended up working with Jimmy and Terry was because Benny Medina had called me to work with them. And and it was like, it was all happening just like boom, 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 boom. Sylvia Rhone, these people were just.
Lady, you remember back when we was in Chicago? This is so funny to me. Excuse me.
It's all good.
We had Chris Blackwell came to see us.
That's what I was getting to tell the story.
Chris Blackwell, who's the founder of Island Records and
Discovered Bob Marley.
All of that.
Wow.
We didn't know who. I didn't know who he was.
I didn't know who he was either.
I was 19 years old, and this guy comes in. He's got this entourage, and I'm looking around like, yo, what's going on? Like, man. But that's kind of we were kids.
But wait, what happened was they called to say, he's flying in specifically to see you. And so I was like, okay. So then when they came, it was just me and Mark at the studio. So we're all sitting on the couch. We're like, so what's up? We're like, we have no clue that this man owns Island. He owns the label, wow. Island Records. And those type of experiences were happening to us, being flown in and flown out. And essentially, I would be like, oh, you bring Trick, I would bring my cousins and Trick and everybody. We'd all fly out to LA and be out there months at a time, 2-3 months, and then come back, for a little bit and then go back. Because that was like Christmas, that was, everything else has just been like a continual day after that. Cause it's like, I love making music. I love, look, the game has a lot of challenges in it, but when you nail it, when you get it, when that record comes, when you believed in somebody and you thought that was the person and they become that person that you thought that they were, there's just always a level of satisfaction to me that you get from that. and meeting the challenges of the changing of the game. They're all just highlights because it's so easy to get out. It's so easy to find a moment and go, wait, okay, you had your moment and it's time to go. And you have to reinvent yourself. You have to really gut check yourself. It's very much like an athlete. You know, you get an injury, something happens, you get traded, you know, things happen. You still have to get up and perform. And what influence do you have on the team? What do you bring if you have to play this role or play that role? So from that perspective, my dream was always to just do this. So the entry point was the best.
Nice. And Mark, do you guys are you strictly music, or do you guys do anything outside of the music as well as a family?
I mean,
we
sell weed, babysit.
Babysit.
That's hilarious.
Nah, man, we're glad you asked. No, I think after you do things for a certain amount of time, it naturally takes you into other areas of the relationships. We're doing Trick and I are, we're here in Atlanta, ladies in LA, but we're doing some real estate investing. We're just doing a lot of different things to diversify. I think what happens a lot of times when you spend as much time in the music business as we have, you make money, you lose money, you make more money, you lose more money, but then you start figuring out how to like keep some of it and how to parlay some of it and the whole lot. So we're sort of in that phase, and it's good because we all started so young. You know, Tricky started when he was 15 or 16. I was 19. Laney was 22, 23. I mean, when we started professionally. And then we've been doing this for, since then. You do the math. I don't even like saying it, but, that many years, that many decades. And so you learn so many lessons. You meet so many people, and so many people bring some stuff into your realm. So it means everything. It means management. It means publishing. It means studio management. It means so many different things to us as revenue streams, as well as just, different ways to get out what it is that we want to do. So, I could see producing films and stuff in the future. Like we can do at this stage.
We're working.
Thank God we can do whatever we want.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think working on a documentary and TV and film and just creating content in this new world. How do you fit what you're doing? There's a lot of things in that I think you're going to see from us coming in the next few years.
You mentioned documentary. Now, I hope that documentary is about the Stewart family. You guys, that would be an amazing documentary by itself on Netflix or something like that. Or it's documentary about something else.
No, it kind of is. It's the documentary is. I don't want to get too deep into it, but it is literally about the perspective in the 90s of Black music and how it influenced overall entertainment.
Okay.
The Black music industry. And looking at it from a whole, not just music, but what was going on during that time, because now we're, everything has cameras to it, since 2007. It's now, but we didn't really chronicle that period, particularly in Black music. And there was some amazing things going on during that time period that, kind of come off cliche-ish, but was greatness really, and people really kind of, don't talk about it as much. So we want to try to hopefully put some light on that.
That's dope. Tricky, do you ever get nervous to work with anybody? Have you ever get that in your career at all, like nervous to work with anybody? You work with some pretty big names. You just feel like you're just gonna do you regardless. So you get those pregame jitters, like as if you're going on the court or something about their play. How do you feel before that?
I mean, yeah, I think for me, I think I don't have like pregame jitters about working with like stars or anything like that, but I just have nerves before every first day session, like with any artist, whether they're new or established, just because first days and sessions can be very awkward. Like if you don't know the person, I'm like, I liken it to maybe like porn or something like that, where it's just like you don't know somebody, but it's like you gotta get in here and get out. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
oh, okay. Wait. I was trying to see where your angle was with that.
I mean, it's awkward. It's awkward, but it's like you have to get to know one another. It's like speed dating, and so I definitely get the jitters like before the first day of working with somebody new.
Is anybody that's out right now that you haven't worked with that you really look forward to working with?
Yeah, it's a lot of people out that I think Bruno Mars is obviously at the top of that list we've gotten in, but we haven't connected on anything yet. Ed Sheeran is at the top of that list. Lil Baby.
Two of my favorite artists right there you just mentioned. Yeah, go ahead. Lil Baby.
Lil Baby. Doja Cat. It's a lot of them, man. It's so many dope artists out right now that are like, we're really seeing a real transition right now between the artists that we grew up on and that seem young to us are still, they're veterans now. And now there's a whole new wave of really talented people out there. I think her is, I think she's just phenomenal. And
yeah, absolutely.
So all up in that space, a little bit of everybody.
You mentioned Bruno Mars. I'm late to the party, but I just heard that song maybe like a week ago, man.
It just came out a week ago.
It just came out. Yeah,
it just came out a week ago. You early.
That John. What do you guys think about that? In my personal opinion, man, that thing is touching like different decades. To me, that's a fire song, man.
Yeah.
What do you guys?
It's amazing.
Go ahead, lady.
I think that record is kind of like I remember when Mark called me about the record to check it out and asked me if I heard it. And I as soon as I listened to it, I called him right back. And the record to me is just so perfect. It's what we were talking about when it all just kind of comes together. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting to watch him as an artist and watch them, this group that they put together. But, I was watching him in an interview yesterday and he was saying the same things that we're saying. He was like, he was like stuck after the last album and things like that. And he was struggling, trying to find what that next thing is going to do. And you start to pull and you can hear where he was pulling from, the different decades that he was able to put in one record and really make it come off amazing. I think the record is the most, Mark said he thinks it's the record of the year. I have a tendency to agree with him too.
I agree.
I don't even care what comes out. Like, I just think it's the record of the year. I mean, I know it's early in the Grammy calendar, but like, I can't see anything topping this record. I think it's going to have a run at the top of the charts for a long time. And here's the way you can always gauge this sort of thing. This is the record that people are picking up the phone and calling each other about.
Did you hear this? Yeah.
Have you heard this? And I'm talking about us industry types. I'm talking about regular people. Nurses is calling each other. Talking about, girl, have you heard this? Bruno, that's what a real hit is. One that creates the chatter, the social media chatter, the in-person chatter, the sharing. Because the other thing they did is they nailed the video. When you nailed the video,
yeah.
They nailed the song. It's a superstar artist to begin with. So everything is there, and people are really talking about it. I haven't heard people talk about a record like this in a minute.
But I also think Bruno Mars is an artist, and we were talking about this the other day, that would have worked in the 90s. He would have worked in the 70s. He would have been an artist that would be able to compete with the best artists of all time that we're looking at.
That's a powerful statement right there, and that says a lot about Bruno. He's dope. I agree with that statement.
I mean, he killed the Grammys the other night. Like his performance was just amazing.
Yeah, I was shocked at Anderson .Paak. I mean, not that he's just an amazing vocalist, but he held it down when I watched. He can sing. Yeah, he sounds great. He sounds great.
Yep.
All right, so let's shift right now because we got a little bit of music history from you guys, and before we wrap up, I want to get into like the format of the show a little bit because like. When I wake up every day, I believe in momentum. Like when I wake up, how you start your day, it's how that day goes. You mentioned that word momentum earlier on, Laney, and I was like, yes, absolutely. When you guys started your career, that momentum. So when I wake up, regardless of how I feel, I choose gratitude just to experience life. And I have a normal daily routine where I meditate, I work out, like you just push-ups and sit-ups, and I listen to something to feed my mind. Individually, starting with you, Tricky, do you have any morning daily routines, anything that you've been doing for years?
No, not really, in the sense that my routine it was more at night. When people are starting their day for the day, that's when I'm winding mine down. So I have a routine of that, like where like I won't say that I like do meditation. I don't really know how to meditate, but I do a lot of prayer. I like to pray over my wife every night before I go to sleep. You know, it's just like a wind down type of thing. So, and then as far as like getting up and just being organized and at that time, that's when I pretty much, as I'm going down, that's when I pretty much set the agenda for everything that's going to happen tomorrow. And that way, when I get up, the only thing that I really got to do is just be with my kids. And I've already sent out information at like 5 or 6 in the morning that really helps everybody else get their day started. And then ultimately, when I wake up, I can just chill with my kids until about like 1:30, 2 o'clock.
Interesting that you said that. Before I move on to Mark and Laney, I'm going to say something that, I think Mark knows this, and I'm glad that you said that, Tricky, because I wrote a book, Laney and Tricky, called Waking Up with the Right Mindset, 50 Positive Thoughts to Start Your Day. And I'm now working on, to piggyback on what Tricky said, I'm almost finished, going to bed with the right mindset, 50 positive thoughts to end your day. Because some people like to start that momentum at nighttime like you do as well, Tricky. And some people start it in the morning, depending on what the type of personality you have or what your career is. So thank you for bringing that up. Mark, what about you?
I think for me, I don't know if it says, I guess it's a routine, but it's not probably as regimented as your thing is. But for me, it's a lot of just thoughts, strategy, trying to clear the brain is what I try to do at night and in the morning, because there's so many different things that come up that feed into what our business is. And because I'm sort of the center of it, like a lot of that stuff comes to me. So I'm really trying to organize and get prepared for the next day. And some days it does get overwhelming, and other days it's a little bit easier to manage. So what I try to do, I'm an early riser. I try to get up, what Tricky said, he gets up to engage with his family. I try to get up before everybody else so that I can have that time in the quiet to just deal with the things that I need to do and making notes and figuring out my day. And that's easier for me to do. And every once in a while, and Laney knows this, like I'll get up like early enough to where it's still late on the West Coast, because he's nocturnal, he's working through the night. So I'll get up at 5:30 or 6 and I'll hit him. He's like, man, what are you doing up? But I like, I'm already in mode. So sometimes that's calling him and checking in with him, because he's right in the middle of his creation. So I'll call him to interrupt that. I'm sure he loves that and appreciates that. But that's when we do a lot of talking, or I'll get up and call Trick, because I know Trick will be on his way home or just got home, and he'll be like, a lot of times we find out each other's up because of different stuff. We'd be sending each other on Instagram. So we'd be like, I'm thinking I'm sitting there. Like, yeah, I'd be like, wait, you still up? That type of thing. So like that routine is really, for me, to put it more succinctly, it's really about sort of getting up before everybody and giving your brain an opportunity to sort of dissect your day. And I'm a coffee drinker. So like once the sun comes up, I'll go get me a coffee or whatever and get that going. As far as routine, I don't have anything like super, super dope like what you do. I probably should read your book and add some of that, but
well, you're fine. You're good.
As of right now, that's the play for me.
Awesome. What about you, Laney?
Mine is very much like I don't know if it's the opposite, but I call it my hour in the shower. The first hour of the day is like just literally I spend meditating. Like I literally meditate when I wake up. I don't take any calls. I don't talk to anybody. I just really try to establish that's where I really, really realized I established my momentum of my day in that prayer time and meditation time.
Yeah.
And then so I won't even engage. I'll be up and people don't know that I'm up, but I don't want, I don't engage with anybody until I've had that. And in it had the connection, because I think that sometimes that connection, I can get into meditation and the connection can happen very quickly and I can align it very quickly. And then some days my mind, your mind is going and it takes a little bit of time to, it takes 20, 30 minutes just to get locked in. And then sometimes I get locked in and I could be in that space for 30 minutes. So, that hour for me is everything. And if I don't have it, my day is out of whack. And I'm very sensitive to momentum, people who I'm around, the energy that people are bringing to me and around me, what I'm looking at. What I don't watch the news.
Wow.
I don't ingest a lot of things that were gonna get in the way of what I feel like now that I'm going back to kind of how we were talking a little earlier, can look back on our careers, understanding that there was definitely divine intervention in every aspect of everything that's happened that we've talked about. And there was an alignment with God and the source at that point to get that going. And as a kid, you don't recognize you're doing it. And now I do. So it's literally, I have to write my goals down, write, different things down, the agenda, things that I need to get done. And then that begins the manifestation process for me. So if I don't get that done, I can see gaps and things that are happening when you start losing momentum in your life when you do that, so
absolutely.
That's hugely important for me.
And I am the same way, Eleni. We have that in common, man. I totally believe in just like getting up and controlling. One of the chapters in my book is control your own alignment, because that's the only thing you can control, and protect your energy is another chapter. And It's really about, because you don't know when you wake up and you got a friend or you read a message and they come at you with negative energy, it could affect your day. So before any of that starts, I like to get out ahead of it. Just like you, just make sure that my tank is already full. So whatever I need to deal with, I can deal with, because I'm already aligned.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
That's the purpose of waking up early. Even you do that. Even you, Mark. You know what I mean? Because you're early bird. You get up before anybody else, and you're not listening to nothing. No noise. It's like you're choosing how you're going to start your day. So I think that's very important. Tricky's a night owl, Tricky being a student. So he does his different, but I really feel that that's important too, honestly. And I want to say something about Tricky too, because I was really happy for Tricky. When I went out to Atlanta with you guys, his family, it was amazing. Mark, you really showed me a lot about, and I never got married, but you were definitely a great model on how to be a husband, how to be a father. It was amazing to watch your family. Your father was still living at that time. Lainey, I think you were back and forth between LA during that time, but it was just amazing. It was amazing to all of us. Your father was dope. Your mother was our vocal coach. You just had a great family. Your wife, Judy, she was like your right hand, probably still is. So it's just amazing to see your family. And then Tricky, I was like, when Tricky got married and had kids, I was like, man, Ivory, you better step your stuff up, man. Tricky got married, like, goodness gracious. I was so happy.
We were all shocked.
That's what I said to Mark. I said, Tricky get married?
Yeah.
And look, and just like me.
They don't even know me like that, y'all. I'm married. I've been married. They don't even remember Trick.
Exactly. It's been a long time. And then on top of that, which was beautiful too, man, is like me, I got 3 girls. Prior to me kind of getting my stuff together, man, I loved women, man. That was I just love women. And God gave me 3. God gave me 3 of them, man. Man, it's hard not to, man. It's hard not to.
I know.
But it's hard not to. But Tricky, man, and you got 2 daughters right now. How old are your daughters, man?
10 and 6.
10 and 6. That's awesome, man. How's it being a father? You've been in for a while right now, but how do you like being a father?
I love it, man. It's probably my favorite thing to do. It is my favorite thing to do. It's been great, and just having the house, I still love women too, but I just in my house, I live in a house with all women,
And the girls are so affectionate too. Like your daughters, I know they like hug. They're the best, man. Daughters are amazing.
Yeah.
Lainey, are you married, Lainey? I don't know that. Are you married or no?
No, I'm not.
Oh, so you're like, that's why you like equity. Like, I love women.
That's why I have prayer. That's where I found my prayer meditation.
I hear that. So Mark, you were the first one, man. Like, you were like, what gave you like you, all of you Capricorn, so I know you guys all had that little thing.
I was not the first one. Lady was.
He wasn't the first one.
I was just the first one to stick.
Yeah, let's clear that. I ain't married now.
Okay, let's clear
I'm
that
not
up.
married now, but I've been married, which is that's meditation. But Mark's been married successfully the longest. Since the 80s.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, and beautiful family. How's Judy doing, by the way, Mark, and the kids?
Hey, Judy's great. Kids are great. Unlike Tricky, me and Lainey's kids are all grown, and my youngest daughter is 19. My other daughter is 23 and married, and the boys, I have 2 boys who are 27. So all of them are grown, and so now me and Judy back out here, like we young, we running around, moving around through the street,
See, they out there like they young. See,
we out here like we young now. Like we dating.
To be out the street.
We back in the dating phase. That's what adds to it. It's like, I didn't left the house to go see Ocean's 8 15 times.
Hey, Mark, and I want to tell you, Judy's looking mighty fine too.
Oh, that's awesome. Mighty fine. Go ahead, Judy. And Mark, what did you guys talk about earlier? And you just did it. You just reinvented yourself, man. You just reinvented your marriage. Now it's a different time. You had to pivot with all the kids are going, so now y'all can start.
No, like on a serious tip, we started our family really early. We were like in our early 20s, and still building the business. So it was very complicated and very stressful in those days because money was an issue. All stuff that just people have. When you 23 years old trying to have twins and you trying to build a career, like it's a different kind of grind. The cool thing is on the other side of it, we still young, like we don't have the same type of money situations that we did before, so we can live our lives, we can enjoy each other's company. We vacation a lot, we travel a lot, so it's all that type of stuff. So it's really whether like you do it the way Tricky did, where Tricky lived his life to the fullest and then got married.
Amen.
Wow. We did it the opposite. We got into the family thing and we lived our life to the fullest on the back end. And then Laney's just managing the single man space out in LA. So he know better.
No. See, don't put that out there like I'm out here like that. No, I'm waiting. When God puts the right woman in front of me, that's who she'll be.
Exactly.
That's what's going to happen. So I want to be ready. I don't want to have a bunch of problems around trying. Oh, you got to go now. No, she here.
So you're patient. You're patient.
But you're the one, dude. How have you avoided not being married all of these years?
Living in LA, man, it's the toughest thing in the world, man. It's been so tough for me, and like I literally, like the last 3 or 4 years, I started to there was a quote that changed my life, and it said that the most cowardly thing a man can do is awaken a woman's heart without intentions on loving her. And and I was the king of doing that, man, because I love women, man.
That's what I was just saying.
Yeah. But for me, I had to start looking at my life and start seeing certain things, and everybody's different. There's certain things that weren't working in my life, and I believe in karma. And and the karma doesn't hit you, maybe the way you put it out, it might come back another way. So I start saying, you need to get your stuff together, Ivory. In certain areas you got, so in having daughters. So for me right now, I'm locked in.
That was your karma?
No, not the daughters. My karma was I started a company. I started a tutoring company, and I brought on some partners. It was very successful. We got some grants out of state, and I brought on 2 partners. And without going into it, long story short, they kind of took my company. So that was my heart, my company. And so I was fighting for it back. I looked at it, was like, you know what? You did the same thing with women. So take it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I took it and learned and moved on from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like right now, man, I'm like you, man. I'm just patient, man. I trust the process. Like I feel like I'm just working on becoming the best version of myself, so I don't fail when I get into that, to that situation. Like I'm trying to get it all out of my system, like Tricky did. You know what I mean? Tricky got it all out. I think I'm almost empty now.
You almost empty?
Not that empty.
Hey,
not that empty.
My jersey's retired. It's up in the Raptors, and they working towards retiring in all the stadiums.
I got a surprise coming in. My mom's coming in.
Hey.
Oh yes. I want to bring it. So I talked about. Why
you be saying my mom? Like, why you be saying like my mom? Like she's only
my mama.
Like what the hell, man?
In the house together.
Hey there.
Yeah, because y'all been living together forever.
How's everybody? I'm great. Wait a minute. You have to do it. Or you move over closer to me.
No, you come this way.
That's his other wife.
Listen, guys, you can't see. You guys can't see, but I literally have like my chills in my arms a little bit. It's excitement. Like when you showed your face, it was it's awesome to see. You've been I stay active with you on social media, and to see you right now is awesome.
Oh, thank you. It's been how many years has it been? Oh, there.
Too long.
20 years.
Has it been that long? Okay.
Yeah. But you look amazing, by the way.
Thank you. We talk every day online on media. social media.
Yes, we do. But I never got to ask you, like, your background is this. So I'm sitting there talking to your amazing sons. And as a mother, I know you probably just, and you've always been that way. And the history where I met you, like I told them early on, is when I came to, we got signed to the Red Zone with Trick and them. You were our vocal coach. And you were no joke. You were amazing, just positive energy, great at what you do. And I know you have a history. I know you worked with the Ohio players, Curtis Mayfield, Aretha Franklin. How do you feel right now as a mother watching your three big head sons doing what they're doing?
Very, very proud, very proud. And to sit here and listen, I've been sitting down here listening to the whole broadcast. It's amazing to hear it back and to go through the progressions that we've done. So it makes me very, very proud of each one of them, and to know the hardships that went with them. And then how they now have come and emerged on this side of it, or, have worked their way through it and have had success and kept their heads and spirits right.
Yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with the imprints, like they were talking about earlier, like growing up in that environment, having, you as a mother. So that had a lot to do with who they are today. Are you still singing it all by yourself? Are you still doing things or no?
Well, not really, not in the capacity that when I worked with you and the other guys and the other girls back, but I did it for a long time. And I think I had about 10 or 15 students during that time of vocal, but it's been a lot of years. I just do it now for my self-enjoyment. I still play the piano and all of that because I did it like 35 years on the main strata of music with an all-female group back in Chicago.
And what was the name of your group? What was the name of your female group back in Chicago?
The Annettes.
The Annettes, like your name, Annettes?
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome. And are you still living in Atlanta right now? Or
yes.
Are you out in LA?
I'm here. They took me, we all went out to LA together, and then we all came back here together. So I'm back here. And I guess this is where we'll be because I'm not moving anymore.
That can if that may not be true, but just be ready.
She's ready. She's ready. Laney mentioned something early on, like he said something about manifestation and just believing and knowing all the time. Did you know as the mother, like they were all that they were going to be where they are today? Did you have a feeling that they were going to end up with this type of success?
I didn't know for certain, but I made the tools available to them and for them to choose whichever way they wanted to go. These two, Mark and Laney, took piano lessons. Laney surpassed Mark because Mark didn't want to do it. Mark just wanted to be at the ballpark with the game. And Laney was always into it and teaching the piano teacher what he had written.
Wow.
Well, there's a story behind that. Actually, this is pretty funny because Mark actually, I don't know where he is now, but at that time we were taking piano lessons. I was forbidden to play anything outside of what wasn't written on the page at class. And of course, Mark excelled at reading Swan Lake, and so we had this we had a recital. Let's call it a recital, and I can't read, so and I never got it. Mark would be up there.
I'm glad you finally admitted it.
I'm talking about music. Shut up. Mark goes up there and everybody's clapping and everything. And I get up there and I'm just like, because she said, I'll know if you're faking it. And so she said, so you better I want to make sure you read the page. So I'm up there reading, like, I'm looking at it like, people were like, oh, he's horrible. But you would have never thought that I was the one that could really play. Right. But I was, I was trying to learn how to sight read.
Right.
Wow.
And
amazing.
Then Tricky never was interested in the keyboard.
Well, that's the first time I ever heard her call him Tricky.
Yeah, well, on the platform. But he always was the drummer. He started drumming at 2. He would just take whatever that was there available and just beat on things, you know. And
we all did that. Like we were all beating and banging and on
because
stuff all the time.
All of you all were in the drum line of school, junior high. So it just kind of followed a pattern. So to answer,
I was first chair though.
You were first chair, and then it went to Kook, was it? Did it go to Kook and then to you, and then down to you, Chris, Tricky? So, but anyway,
I never played in the band.
He wasn't in the band, Mom.
I thought you were in the band at Thornwood. No,
by the time I was to play in any band that I'd ever wanted to be in, I could never be in the band because of how my brothers had behaved in the band.
Don't try to put that. Don't try to put that. You first of all, you was in high school for 15 minutes. There was no time. You was there for 8.
Here we go. Here we go. Shots fired. Here we go.
I was never in the band.
Right. So Ivory, to answer your question, I tried to make available to them all of the music and everything that would expose them to, I guess, where they are now. They were around it with us. My mother and father taught us, me and my sisters and us, and cultivated us. My mother did as singers, and my father. And then they were around it from us doing it on a daily basis. And like I said, with the group that I had of, how many women were in that group? It's at
30,
points in
35,
time,
40.
35, 40
Wow.
women. Yeah, and at times more than that. For like,
and we all played. We all came up
played.
playing for that group.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Wow.
And
she would have the baddest musicians in Chicago playing in the band. So we would have this combination of church musicians and session musicians coming together to play for a concert that she put on once a year to raise food for Thanksgiving. We would raise food for Thanksgiving for needy families and buy turkeys and stuff. But we would put on a concert every year. And kind of probably the rite of passage was if you got to play in that, if you got to be a part of playing what that was. So like I played in it for years, and you got to play with all of these great different musicians and stuff. And then they put on a play one year, a musical. And so you got all of these things that were kind of coming at us to let's try that. Are we in a play? Are we doing that? Oh, okay. So that was like our life. I would come home and there'd be music for me to learn for, the concert coming up on my bed, after basketball practice.
Absolutely. And
so you play basketball? I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say the play that he's talking about, the group The Annettes, we did it for one. We were supposed to be doing it for one of our events to raise money. It was such a success till, was it you?
You did
Chicago
like a residency.
State. Yeah, we did a residency at Chicago State, was it?
Yeah.
In Chicago for a month or two every weekend.
Yeah.
2 performances per weekend. And they had that experience of, those stage kind of presence.
It's like Dale Curry and Steph Curry. You guys were in the NBA, the music business. They were being raised in that business, so they had that foundation, and that's a great foundation to start from. So it's no shock that you guys are where you are today. Let me ask you this question before I let you guys go. And I appreciate the time. You guys are all awesome, and it's been a long time since I've seen you guys' faces, so it's wonderful. But throughout all the success, now this is a very important question I want to ask, because this is going to really determine mindset. And that's what you guys have, really a strong mindset. What was what's the biggest adversity that you guys had to overcome to continue going? Is there anything that you guys had? Because we all go through things and what did you go through and how did you overcome it?
I mean, there's been a lot. I mean, I don't think that there's constantly things. The businesses have been in different, over the years, when you look over the stretch of the decades, I hate to say decades, but the decades, the businesses have had issues and things, we've had illnesses, we've had sickness, we've had just marriages break up, there's all kinds of things that when you're doing this, they say in show business, the show must go on. that you still have to keep we've had to keep a pretty, there's been times when there's things going on that are majorly in our family and we're in the studio. One of us is in the studio. Trick might be in the studio with Ree or one of us has to continue to keep going and tagging in and tagging out to do business. I had an illness a few years ago that was, a major illness. My mom had one. And at that time, it was at the height of the umbrella run, which we call the umbrella run. So there was a lot going on in terms of personal stuff. And it just, over the years, you just get to learn how to manage those moments. I think there's a management that you have to really kind of put your game face on. Sometimes slap yourself around and go, okay, I pick yourself up and go. And we walk in the studio into that environment or into a meeting or into a discussion, and people may see or know what's going on and may not know, but it doesn't come out in that moment. We're there to be professional. We knock whatever it is out, and then you go back to whatever the scenario is, making sure that, and as a family, we generally in those situations come together. So there's a way to kind of, you're not leaving anything undone if there's something going on personally per se. There's always a way to opt back in and know what's going on. Okay, this is happening. Births. It all happens. It just over the years you just learn how to just be on a level that you go in there and the job has to get done, and that job is to kick that ass.
Absolutely, absolutely.
With him having said that, what you have to overcome and what they've had to overcome over the years. They went through I think this was in the Rihanna run as well, when I had some major physical challenges, and so did Lainey. They were kind of like back to back. And so they brought me to California because they were there working, Chris and all three of them were there. Yeah. And so I had major surgery there in California, recuperation for, I think, 2 or 3 months. And they were still having to work. And I think that's when some major work with Celine Dion, with Chris and all of that. I think that's when you did that, right, Chris? No?
Yeah, that was exactly around that time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they'd go to work, like Lainey said, and come back and see about me, and I had other help there, but they were there. But you learn to overcome the things that they have learned to overcome and keep it moving. Like Lainey said, you keep it moving, you come back together, you face the challenges. And like with Lainey, you just come together as a family. Then when it's time to work, you go forth and you do that,
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
I'll just add this too. I think professionally, Ivory, I would say that reinvention and rebuilding is a very, we talk about it in this poetic type of way, like, oh, we had to reinvent. You hear people say, I had to reinvent. Reinvention is painful. Like, very painful. Reinvention can be lonely because you have to get into your own thoughts. You have to get into some real self-evaluating, and then, I tell you another thing that's not that easy is when you're in business with your family and you start evaluating each other and you're evaluating each other's roles and stuff like that. That's when you talk about adversity, that's when you lean on your relationships. You lean on, what we have in terms of connectivity to get us through that, because rebuilding your business and reimagining your business is not an easy thing.
Generally,
it's art.
Yeah, and that's what Mark talked about earlier, those calls at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's when that is happening. A lot of times those phone calls at 5 o'clock in the morning that go on sometimes for people don't know it, like for 2-3 hours. I'll be talking to him and the sun will be coming up and he'll be getting up for his day, and I'm winding my day, winding my day down, and then coming back up, in a few hours to get back to work. So it's there's times when when nobody's watching, when nobody's paying attention, that the discussions, the FaceTime calls about everything happens. Or she might make dinner and we go over there and eat some chicken, and it happens then. It just depends on, but it depends on the circumstance. But what happens is that it happens. And it's probably a necessary tool for us to have made it this long, because it's just so many ups and downs in the game. it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Last question I want to ask you guys is what are you guys working on now? Is there anything now that you guys are working on that we can keep our eye out for?
Trick.
First and foremost, the new label RZ3 is coming out. So we have a new label coming out where we have an artist MKXYZ that we're dropping. We have other artists that we're going to be dropping: Princeton Perez, Saucito, Annie Tracy, who's a partnership with a company that I have provide the vibes with Tiny. But that's the main thing. Is moving back to Atlanta was the focus was really about kind of, we had gone, we had seen, we had conquered, everything that we kind of wanted to accomplish. And we realized in a lot of those cases, we had started a lot of those careers. So coming back to Atlanta was about starting reinvention and starting with new artists and putting new artists in the game. So that's what we're going to do in 2021.
That's awesome, man. Thank you guys so much. Mark, thank you for facilitating this. Lainey, thank you for jumping on. Marianne, thank you for the surprise. And Tricky, man, thank you, man. I know Tricky's this dude's always busy. To get Tricky here is awesome too, man. I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys, wish you guys continued success and have a beautiful rest
Ivory,
of your day.
I want to say before you check out, man, that I definitely want to congratulate you on what you're building. Mm-hmm. I haven't read your book. I'm not going to front like I have, but I will read it. But congratulations on writing it, because I know it takes a lot just to get these type of things going, and the things that you're doing with your life. It's so weird how we got to this point, because I literally was going to pick up the phone and call you, because you check in every day. I see you on Facebook with such positive energy that you don't realize that people are seeing, even if they don't hit like or leave a comment. Mm-hmm. That energy is reverberating in ways you don't realize. So congratulations to you on getting out an amazing message.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you guys, and I hope you guys all have a beautiful day. And Lainey, I got to get in touch with you because you're in LA.
I'd be tired of you like going down the street going, "Yo, Lainey, what's up?" Maybe that day I saw you on the street. Yeah, I'm like,
in the valley,
my boy was like, "Yo, who was that?" I said, "I think that was my boy Ivory, but he went by so fast."
Yeah, I'm gonna be very intentional about that. Very intentional. I will. Congratulations on everything, Tricky. Appreciate you. Congratulations, man. I'm so proud of you, man. I'm getting married and leaving those days way, way behind you, man. That's amazing, man. Mark, man, you're like that brain, man, and that heart is beautiful. Marianne, the leadership. Lainey, you've been like every time you came in, you just were just such class, hilarious, and leadership, man. So you guys are a brilliant family, and I hope that the world recognizes you guys. But like you said, Marcus, it's really not about that. I know it's just about the work that you're putting out. So continue just doing what you guys are doing. It's amazing. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Bro.
All right. Have a great day. All right. Bye.
Waking up with Ivory.